There is a kind of confidence that terrifies people, not the shallow arrogance of someone who speaks loudly but breaks in silence, not the cheap bravado of someone who posts their courage online but hides from conflict in reality. I am talking about a darker, sharper confidence, the kind that Machiavelli admired in princes, the kind that Stoics embodied in silence, even as empires collapsed around them. This is the kind of confidence that does not ask for permission and does not beg for forgiveness. It is not reckless, it is not blind, it is not desperate. It is built in the fire of discipline, sharpened through the grind of pain, and forged in the refusal to be ruled by emotion. It is a dangerous confidence because it cannot be controlled by others. It does not bow to approval. It does not collapse under rejection. It is the kind of confidence that terrifies manipulators, tyrants, and liars. And if you are still here listening, it means some part of you knows you were not born for weakness. Some part of you is tired of excuses, tired of hesitation, tired of drowning in self-doubt. Stay with me, because what you will hear now, if you let it into your bones, will not only change how you see yourself, it will change how others see you. The nature of dangerous confidence. Confidence is not a performance. It is not a mask you wear when you want to impress others. Confidence, real confidence, is a state of inner alignment. It is when your thoughts, your words, and your actions are no longer at war with each other. Machiavelli in The Prince warned that power is rarely given, it is taken. The world does not hand you confidence. The world strips it from you every chance it gets. That is why those who rise above must build it themselves, stone by stone, decision by decision. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That is the seed of dangerous confidence. Because once you realize the world cannot touch your mind without your consent, you begin to move differently. You stop reacting, you stop begging, you stop explaining. And that shift, it unsettles people. It makes them whisper about you. It makes them test you. But inside, you are unshaken. The enemy within, destructive emotions. Let us face a truth that most run from. The greatest enemy of confidence is not the judgment of others. It is the storm within us, fear, anger, envy, insecurity. Seneca, in his letter on anger, warned, "No plague has cost the human race more. You will see murder, poisoning, the ruin of cities, the downfall of nations, more often caused by anger than by earthquakes and floods." And yet we treat these emotions as if they are normal masters of our lives. We let anger dictate our actions, fear dictate our choices, envy dictate our desires. But how can a man or woman be truly confident if they are slaves to what stirs inside them? How can we walk with authority if a single insult can destroy us or a single rejection can paralyze us? Dangerous confidence begins here, with the mastery of emotion. When you can look fear in the eye and still move forward, when you can feel anger boil inside you and still remain composed, when you can see others rise above you and yet not collapse into envy, that is when others begin to sense something unshakable in you. That is when you cross the threshold from ordinary confidence to something far more dangerous. The fire of discipline. Confidence is not built in the moment of performance. It is built in the silence of preparation. Epictetus, the freed slave who became one of the greatest Stoic teachers, put it clearly. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. There is no dangerous confidence without discipline. Discipline is the scaffolding on which confidence is constructed. It is the daily decision to train your body when no one is watching. It is the nightly choice to sharpen your mind instead of drowning it in distraction. It is the unglamorous, uncelebrated war against laziness, indulgence, and weakness. Why? Because every time you overcome yourself, you teach your mind a simple truth. I can trust myself. And that trust, that unbreakable self-respect, is the essence of confidence. Not the trust others give you, not the trust society grants you, but the trust that when you say, I will rise at dawn, you rise at dawn. When you say, I will endure hardship, you endure hardship. When you say, I will not break, you do not break. That is how dangerous confidence is born.
The presence of stillness. In a world addicted to noise, stillness is power. People think confidence is loud. They think it is about speaking the most, laughing the loudest, dominating every room. But dangerous confidence is not desperate for attention. It is still. It is calm. It is precise. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, be like the rock against which the surf crashes. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it. That is confidence, dangerous confidence. Not the rock that screams at the waves, but the rock that lets them break upon it, knowing none can move it. This is why those who truly walk with inner authority rarely boast. They do not need to shout. They do not need to prove. Their silence speaks louder than the noise of others. Their stillness commands more respect than the words of the loud. This is what terrifies people about dangerous confidence. It is not easily manipulated. You cannot bribe it with praise. You cannot destroy it with criticism. It remains silent, still, immovable. The red thread, pain and power. But here's the truth most will run from. Confidence is not built in comfort. It is built in confrontation with pain. Seneca wrote, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Every hardship you endure, every challenge you face without breaking, every rejection you survive without collapsing, these are not obstacles to confidence. They're the very fuel of it. Think of a soldier hardened by battle. Think of a monk hardened by fasting. Think of a thinker hardened by solitude. Confidence becomes dangerous when it has scars beneath it, because then, when the world threatens you, you can smile, not arrogantly, but knowingly, because you have already walked through worse. What can rejection do to the one who has faced abandonment? What can failure do to the one who has been broken and risen again? What can insults do to the one who has mastered their own mind? This is the dangerous truth. We do not become confident in spite of pain. We become confident because of it. The silent weapon, self-control in action. Confidence becomes dangerous not when you feel it inside, but when others can see it, sense it, and feel powerless before it. The Stoics understood this long before Machiavelli sharpened his pen. They knew that the greatest weapon a human being could wield was not the sword, nor wealth, nor the approval of others. It was mastery over themselves. Epictetus reminded his students constantly, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Think about that for a moment. The loudest man in the room loses control when insulted. The richest man in the city trembles when fortune turns. The most charming person falls apart when rejected. But the one who controls their reactions, the one who cannot be provoked, cannot be seduced, cannot be shaken, that person becomes untouchable. And when people cannot touch you, they begin to fear you, not with hatred, but with respect. because deep down they know you have what they lack. Machiavelli's warning. Niccolo Machiavelli was not a Stoic, but he understood something Stoics would have nodded at. People are manipulators. They will betray, flatter, deceive, and attack if it serves their interests. In The Prince, Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you can be both." Many recoil at this phrase, as if fear means tyranny, but the Stoic reads it differently. We do not seek to terrorize others, but we must accept this. The respect of others is rarely given freely. The world respects strength, not weakness. The world listens to composure, not chaos. Confidence becomes dangerous when it is combined with awareness, when you not only control yourself, but you also see through the masks of others. To be dangerously confident is not to boast, "I fear no one." It is to whisper to yourself, "I see everyone as they truly are." That is Machiavellian. That is Stoic. That is power. The test of insults and betrayal. Let me ask you, how do you react when insulted? Do you lash out red with anger? Do you plot revenge, wasting nights on fantasies of retaliation? Or do you shrink, wounded by words? The Stoic chooses none of these. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." Do you understand the weight of this? It means no one has the power to wound you without your consent. An insult is only air. A betrayal is only an event. It is your judgment that turns them into agony. Imagine standing in front of your enemies, your rivals, your doubters, and no matter what poison they spit, you remain calm, unmoved, unshaken. That silence, that stillness, that composure, it terrifies them. Because in that moment, they realize they cannot control you. And that is why Stoic confidence is dangerous. It strips others of their power over you.
The theater of life, playing roles without losing yourself. Machiavelli observed that rulers often must wear masks to survive, to influence, to command. Sometimes we must play roles, speak words we do not fully believe, bend when we wish to break. But here is the danger. Most people lose themselves in the roles they play. They wear masks so long they forget their own face. The Stoic, however, never forgets who they are. Epictetus told his students, "Remember that you are an actor in a play, the length of which is determined by the playwright. If he wishes you to act the part of a beggar, see that you act it naturally and nobly. If the part of a ruler, act it with equal nobility." What does this mean? It means we can play roles without losing our essence. We can navigate the gains of society, politics, workplaces, relationships, without surrendering our soul. Dangerous confidence comes from this paradox. We can bend without breaking. We can adapt without losing ourselves. We can act without forgetting that it is only a stage. And when you walk into the theater of life with this awareness, others may smile, flatter, deceive, but you remain untouched. The power of saying less. Have you noticed that those who speak least often command the most respect? Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Most people waste their words the same way they waste their lives, endlessly, thoughtlessly, desperately. But the Stoic knows the value of silence. When you say less, your words weigh more. When you remain silent, people begin to wonder what you are thinking, what you are planning, what you are holding back. This is not manipulation. It is discipline. It is the refusal to waste your voice on the unworthy.
It is the choice to speak only when necessary, and when you do, to strike with precision. Dangerous confidence does not need to explain itself. It does not need to justify every move. It does not beg for understanding. It simply is. And this silence, this refusal to be dragged into noise, creates an aura of authority that even your enemies cannot ignore. The calm in chaos. Think of battlefields, whether of war, politics, or daily life. Who do people follow? They do not follow the man who panics when the storm comes. They do not follow the one who screams louder than everyone else. They follow the one who remains calm, the one whose eyes do not flinch, the one whose voice cuts through the storm like a blade. Marcus Aurelius again. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Confidence is dangerous when chaos comes and you do not flinch. When others panic, you remain still. When others drown in fear, you remain afloat. When others lose themselves, you remain yourself. This calmness is not natural. It is trained. It comes from facing discomfort, from rehearsing adversity, from embracing hardship, so that when true chaos comes, you are already familiar with it. That is why Stoics practiced poverty, fasting, even rehearsed death, not out of despair, but to become unshakable when life struck. And that is why when the world collapses, the dangerously confident man stands untouched. The shadow of mortality. Here lies the deepest source of dangerous confidence, the acceptance of death. Machiavelli knew rulers must face mortality, often violently. The Stoics made this awareness their daily meditation. You could leave life right now, Marcus Aurelius reminded himself. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. Most people fear death so much they cannot live. They cling, they beg, they compromise, they betray themselves, all to delay the inevitable. But the Stoic, the dangerously confident, embraces mortality, not recklessly, not with despair, but with clarity. What can the world do to the one who has already accepted death? Threats lose power. Manipulations lose effect. Fear dissolves. When you accept death, you begin to live differently. Every moment sharpens. Every decision clarifies. Every word weighs more. This is why dangerous confidence feels terrifying to others, because they sense in you a freedom they do not have. They are chained to fear of loss. You are not. They are chained to the terror of death. You are not. You have looked at the end and said, I am ready. And nothing is more powerful than that.
The aura of presence. There is something invisible, yet undeniable, about people who carry themselves with true confidence. You have felt it before. The moment someone enters a room and, without a word, the atmosphere shifts. What is that? It is not wealth, not appearance, not even charisma. It is presence. Presence is the outward radiation of inner mastery. It is the natural consequence of a disciplined, self-controlled, unshakable mind. Seneca once wrote, "He who has made a fair compact with poverty is rich." Do you see it? A man who fears no loss, who is unmoved by luxury, who is at ease even in simplicity, radiates presence. Because nothing can tempt him, nothing can bribe him, nothing can own him.
Presence is born when you are no longer hostage to external validation. When you have buried your desperation for approval, others begin to feel drawn to you, not because you beg for their attention, but because you refuse to need it. The law of restraint. Machiavelli observed that rulers often lose power not through weakness, but through excess. Too much generosity, too much openness, too much trust. Dangerous confidence is not indulgence, it is restraint. Epictetus taught, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Confidence becomes dangerous when it manifests as restraint in a world addicted to excess. When you do not chase every pleasure, when you do not answer every insult, when you do not reveal every thought. Restraint creates mystery. Mystery creates authority. The world teaches us to overshare, to explain ourselves, to prove our worth. But the dangerously confident do not explain. They do not justify, they simply move. And in their restraint, they command more respect than endless words ever could. The art of indifference. The Stoics called it apatheia, not numbness, but disciplined indifference to what is outside your control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Notice the simplicity. Confidence does not come from seeking approval, but from aligning with principle. When you are indifferent to gossip, indifferent to flattery, indifferent to the endless opinions of the crowd, you radiate authority. Machiavelli would nod here, for he observed that rulers fall when they are desperate to be loved. Dangerous confidence does not seek to be loved. It does not even seek to be feared. It seeks to remain unmoved by either. And this indifference, it terrifies people, because most are slaves to opinion. When you are not, you become untouchable. The weapon of composure. Imagine a heated argument. One man yells, red with rage. Another trembles, crushed by fear. And then there is you, calm, still, unshaken. The Stoics believed composure was the ultimate test of discipline. Seneca, "A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." Confidence is dangerous when you do not suffer twice, when you do not anticipate disaster in panic, when you do not rehearse humiliation in your mind, when you simply face reality as it comes with composure. This weapon of composure is rare, and because it is rare, it becomes powerful. In the presence of your calmness, others reveal themselves. They lose control, they expose their weaknesses, they make mistakes. Your stillness becomes strategy. The magnetism of silence. Words are cheap. Silence is expensive. Most people cannot endure silence. It exposes their insecurity. But when you embrace silence, when you are unafraid of pauses, when you let others fill the air with their nervous words, you become magnetic. This is why Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. When others talk too much, you do not. When others explain themselves, you remain silent. When others try to provoke, you withhold reaction. Silence becomes your shield, your weapon, your magnet. It forces people to project their fears and fantasies onto you. It makes them wonder what you know, what you think, what you were planning. And that uncertainty, that invisible question mark, is authority.
The death of validation. At the root of weakness lies one disease, the hunger for validation. Machiavelli warned princes that seeking to please everyone is the path to ruin. The Stoics warned us that seeking approval is slavery. Epictetus was blunt. If you want to improve,
Be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Do you understand how radical this is? Confidence becomes dangerous when you no longer need to be understood, when you no longer need to be admired, when you no longer need to be liked, because then, paradoxically, respect begins to follow you. Not the cheap respect of flattery, but the deep respect of awe. When you kill your hunger for validation, you become dangerous, because nothing binds you anymore. Influence without force. Machiavelli wrote about power in terms of force and cunning, but what happens when Stoic composure enters this equation? You influence without force. You dominate without shouting. You lead without begging. People follow the one who does not need followers. They respect the one who does not demand respect. They obey the one who does not chase obedience. This is why Stoic confidence is dangerous. It bends the will of others without a single act of coercion, not through fear, not through bribes, not through charm, but through the rare sight of a human being who is truly free. And now, after this long descent into the labyrinth of Stoicism and Machiavelli's hidden warnings, we arrive at the one truth that cannot be avoided. Confidence is not a costume. It is not a smile you paint on your face. It is not loud words, nor arrogance, nor the shallow theater of pretending to be strong. Confidence is forged in silence. It is carved in discipline. It is born when you look your greatest fears in the eyes and say, "I will not run." Machiavelli whispered to princes, "Control yourself, or you will be controlled." The Stoics hammered it into the soul, "Rule your mind, or you will be a slave." We must not mistake confidence for recklessness. Recklessness burns itself out, but the confidence born of restraint, of clarity, of endurance, this is the confidence that frightens tyrants and inspires nations. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And when we embrace this mastery, when we stop surrendering to every fear, every impulse, every poisonous emotion, we become something more than just confident. We become untouchable. Ask yourself, how many times have you hesitated? How many times have you surrendered to doubt, to anger, to despair? And how many times has it cost you what was already within your grasp? Now is the time to cut that chain. Now is the time to step into dangerous confidence. Not the kind that blinds, but the kind that awakens. The kind that says, "I am calm when others panic. I am steady when others break. I am fireproof when the world tries to burn me." This is our path. This is our weapon. This is our moment to rise. If you have walked with me through this journey, you already feel the shift inside, a voice whispering enough. Enough of fear, enough of hesitation, enough of living as if tomorrow is promised. Now you must decide. Do you bury this fire and return to the comfort of weakness? Or do you keep walking with us, deeper, darker, stronger, until nothing can shake you again? The choice is yours. But remember, confidence without control is chaos. Confidence with control is power. And power, when guided by reason, will make you unstoppable. So if you are ready to walk this path, if you are ready to carve Stoic steel into your very bones, stay with us. Subscribe, follow, share this message with those who are lost in the noise, and return here. Because every word we will speak from now on will only take you further, deeper, closer to the person you were meant to become. This is not entertainment. This is not comfort. This is your initiation
into a life of dangerous confidence. The time is now. Rise with us.